What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and are you ready to chat it up? Because the moon's in Gemini. We're starting a new lunar cycle, and I think this was going to be lit. But yeah, we got a lot to. We're starting this one off with a bang. A lot of active energy that's coming up in the chart, a lot of new ideas, a lot of yeah, I think new doors that are unlocking for us, and a matter of in seeing things from different perspectives, which I think Gemini really specializes in. But we'll get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon, rising, maybe Mercury, wherever. This one's for you. But we all benefit from knowing what's going on with the moon. We all have a Cancer portion. Big Papa's about to move there here soon, so we got to keep track of that moon and follow that growth. And I do tarot card spreads, amongst other things, based off that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going. Boy, of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one, so take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Let's jump into it because I'm ready. I got my moon in Gemini, so anytime we're in a lot of Gemini energy right now, and I'm noticing that I've just been chatting it up. But all right, let's go ahead and get into the lunar shenanigans. Cause let me get my notes up here. Depending on when you're watching this, happy moon day. And the moon will have entered into Gemini on the 26th of May. And this is happening at 10:22 a.m. and that's Pacific time. And we'll get into the new moon phase here in a moment. But when we think about the energy of Gemini, they're ruled by Mercury, who Mercury just, again, depending on when you're watching this, just entered back into its home sign of Gemini as of yesterday, the 25th. So now, the air energy is really flowing right now. Because when you think about Gemini, like I was saying, they're ruled by Mercury and they're the mutable air sign and they're active or young in nature. And so this is a time, I think, especially when we have the moon, the sun, Big Papa, and who else is in Gemini? Moon, Papa, Sun, Big J, Mercury. And of course, Mercury. There's a lot of opportunities here for expansion, a time to get curious, a time for learning, and really, and I just don't mean just frivolous learning, just to learn something just for the sake of knowledge. No, this is learning something that you may use down the line, down the line here. Because I find that Gemini energy, they can teach as quick as they learn something. But I think too, this is a great time to see what has been flowing through the air as of late. What are some things that you have been taking in, and how can we maybe even be more mindful about the information that's surging in? Because that is almost like a double-edged sword of Gemini, where it can take in a lot of things really quickly. If it's if you're feeling it with just a bunch of noise and things, then I think that's where Gemini gets that sort of scattered view, where it knows just like a lot about a little bit. So if that makes sense. But I think you get what I'm going at with that. But yeah, this is one where I think the moon under this sign here is a very interesting one, because I think this is a great time too to just really again kind of observe what has been going on in the body, really kind of feel what's going through the mind and how the information that you take in sits into the body. I think that there can be some really great insights from that. This could be a great time of the moons in Gemini to talk about certain things that may be coming up for you. Maybe some, maybe just getting some ideas for maybe something that you wanted to start up, maybe someone that you trust there. Or this could be a great time for writing things out or doing some sort of maybe even if you need help just kind of processing some inner things, even recording either like a voice memo or maybe even like recording a video, and you can maybe even see how not just the thoughts that you maybe how the internal dialogue is going on, but it maybe even see it in your gestures. You notice that you're really tense as you're talking. Do you feel like your eyes are darting all over the place? Do you have troubles maintaining that kind of even eye contact with yourself possibly? I mean, well, when you go to look at this later. But these could be just some things to pay attention to. But overall, I find that this is a great time to just get curious and curious about things that maybe that's been on your mind maybe for a while. There's something that who knows what kind of doors that would open for you. And again, with Gemini energy, it'll get you there fast, especially when it's channeled and when it's focused. So work with this gift that we're under this energy here. But let's go ahead and get to the charts. We can talk about this lunation here, because the new moon is going to be happening at the same day, the 26th of May, at about 8:02 p.m. And that happens when you see here the sun and the moon are snuggled up together. And the new moon is when the sun and the moon are in a conjunction with one another. And the conjunction is a fusion of energy. And when you really think about that, between the sun and the sun is that life force. It's the soul energy. This is the higher light of the mind, where the downloads, the inspirations, that will to create comes into view, where when we dig into that true will, we shine brightest. And the moon is how we feel, the sort of unconscious things that are going on beneath the surface. So this is a really great time, during these phases, to really kind of tune into that true soul calling. And in this instance, in the energy of Gemini, what do we think about the information that we're coming in? And especially look too, with this lunation, look to see where you have Gemini, because there's going to be some new information that's coming in for you. Maybe, let's say, for example, with this chart, this is, if you have a Scorpio rising, this is happening in your 8th house. So maybe you're thinking about some new sort of investments. Maybe you're thinking about how you share your resources with your business partner, with anyone you happen to share resources with. Maybe you're thinking about, if you're in a relationship and maybe you're taking it to that next level. And again, we're doing like joint finances. We're thinking about sharing property, where maybe, children, that could even be something. But this could even be too, there may be even like, if you've been wanting to explore any sort of like occult studies, I find that the 8th house is wonderful for that. Saturn just finished up, well, it'll go back there one more time for all Leo risings, but I found that for me personally, that 8th house stuff, that was a great time for doing some real kind of occult studies, getting into some rituals and things like that. Mediumship is another thing, and especially for Scorpio rising, that would be dope. So that's just one example. There's something new here that's seeding in this energy here. So that would be something that I would look into, again, wherever you happen to have Gemini, because this is going to be, we're in a very active time here, because now that Saturn's officially moved into Aries here, all the planets and the luminaries are all in active energies, fire and air all day. So this is a time to really get some things moving, especially if you've been sort of like, oh, maybe I've been thinking about it or been waiting for things to happen. Let's make some things happen. Do that research. Go have that conversation. Go get things moving. Because when the moon would have first entered into Gemini, it would have started off that sextile with Saturn. And so this is really understanding here, like, okay, what are some things that I want to get started? What are some things that I want to get formed? What is the will? How is the will trying to take shape with Saturn in Aries? What does that look like? And then the moon would have come into Mercury, where right shortly thereafter, and would have been like, okay, now that I've got that feeling, how do I understand that? What are some things that I need to look into? Then we come to the new moon. We're taking that, we're really feeling that, all right, does this feel in alignment? All right, let's go do this thing. And then, okay, let me see, who else? Because I'm like, yeah, the moon is talking with everybody. Because then eventually it's going to talk with Mars next. And then we're feeling this energy, we're feeling this drive, we're feeling this calm. Like, yeah, this energy is exciting. Gemini is exciting. It's light, it's fun, but it's just like, because what's next? Like, ooh, I didn't know I could learn this thing. Ooh, how wonderful. What happens if I do this? That's Gemini. So I think that, especially kind of doing that with that Leo energy too, this could be really kind of testing out what's going to stick, what really feels in line with your energy, and how to adjust your energy, I think, too, so that it's not just something that's fleeting. That's something with Mars in Leo gives that will give that energy stamina. And then as the moon kind of wraps up its time here, it'll run into it's going to end on a conversation with the benefics, which is a lovely, I think, way to end this, these next couple days with the moon. Because first it'll form a sextile with Venus. which could be thinking about, all right, I've processed a lot of this information here. Now, how does that change my relationships? How do I attract this thing? Again, who do I need to speak with? What are some things, how do I really get this creation into being? And then once it forms a conjunction with Big Papa, you've grown. Because even in just that short amount of time, that's a lot of energy to process through. And that's the beauty of Gemini. This could be some really rapid growth, and very, very quickly here. So I would say really, really utilize these next couple days to allow this seeding process to take shape here. Because we got some really, really cool stuff that I think we're working with. Now, let's talk about the Sabian symbol for the. Oh, and I didn't look. Oh, well, no, never mind. So, yeah, let's talk about the Sabian symbol for this lunation, because this is phase 67 of Gemini, and this one speaks of a well with bucket. Well, excuse me, with a bucket and rope under the shade of majestic trees. And the keynote for this is man's primordial faith in the hidden sustaining power of life. Now, when you think of just about that imagery, there's a lot here. I really think, again, with this, not just with the moon in Gemini over these next couple of days, but I really think in this lunation that when you think of this visual with the bucket and the rope and this well surrounded by not just regular trees but majestic trees, this implies that this land is rich. That it's getting that these trees are getting the sustenance that it needs from the sky, in the rain, from the sun, all of that, but also from the ground, because all that rain is, and that earth is absorbing all of that moisture and is able to, now is providing resources for us. And for me, how I was when I was meditating on the Sabian symbol, this is looking at the things that are sustaining you. And what do we really think about them? Look at them from a couple of different viewpoints. Again, that's the beauty of Gemini. When you go, let's say, I'll give you an example. I was just talking with someone about this maybe a few weeks ago, where they were saying, we were talking about just like how you can go through and maybe scroll through some stuff, and then after you get done scrolling, they're just like, what did I just look at? And I think it's looking at stuff like that. Like when you go through those things, it's just like, is this stuff just kind of like fluff? Are we really getting some substance from the things that we're watching, from the things that we're listening to, from the conversations that we're even having? That could be something where maybe even change up how we engage with one another. But there is something here where if we look at, or if we really think about, I think, like how the universe really kind of provides for us. I think that if we all really kind of call upon that, really dig into those universal waters, that is provided here. And there's protection, from these majestic trees here. I find it's like when you find that thing that really is sustaining you, then pour your life into that. And then I find the more that we do that, the more that it increases our faith in this journey, that, oh my gosh, if the universe can provide for me like this, how can I take that to that next level? Again, there's something exciting about that. So just some things I think to think about when we're kind of working with this energy here. But let's go ahead and get into your general energy today, because this one's lit too. You got a lot of changing lines here. So you got hexagram 38, which is abandoned. And if you want to meditate on the changing lines that you got, which you have lines 1, 2, 4, and 6, down in the description box I have a link for a website where I get the kanji for these slides. But they have the descriptions for these changing lines, and they give you some things, some thoughts on that. And I would advise even just looking at a couple of different sources to see what people say about that, to kind of cross some things. It could really give you some really great insights there. But let's go ahead and get into these energies here. Oh, and this hexagram here is fire over lake. Now, when you get into the first line, this talks about regret disappears. Do not chase after the lost horse. It will return of its own accord. Seeing an evil person bodes no ill. So I like this when it talks about the regrets disappearing, because when it talks about the lost horse, do not chase after. I feel like this is something where this is not chasing after one. One is almost giving me kind of like that fear of missing out. It's like, not chasing after things that you feel like almost like things that are have been maybe kind of forced upon us, possibly, where you feel like for example, where it's like you have to get married, you have to have X amount of money that you're making, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like not chasing after things that are lost and allowing the regrets to disappear. Those things will come on its own accord. That's just one message that's coming through. And not seeing, and it's interesting, even kind of, I got a couple perspectives with that. Seeing an evil person bodes no ill. I would even say if you are feeling maybe even some sort of envy over what someone happens to have, that one would get eyes on that. It's one thing to, because when we get into that sort of covetous sort of energy, that gets a little tricky, when we're wanting something that someone else has as opposed to wanting what we actually want. There's just something there, I think, to explore with that. But I also think, too, if you had to make maybe like a certain decision possibly here, and it's like, maybe people happen to, let's say you make like the one example that I'm thinking, like kind of an easy one would be, let's say if you had like a group of buddies that you went out with, you're maybe your drinking crew, and then you decide to not drink anymore. You wanted to do something else. It's not, you may split for a moment. That divide naturally happens, but allow people to return on their own accord. Maybe they see you, maybe as like a quote unquote evil person, just like, how can you break this thing up, But that could be where it's just like, what, allow them to meditate on it, and then if they come back with time and you want to have that conversation again, that's open for you. But things ultimately with this one, I feel like it's not getting hung up on something. It's not holding. I think regrets, sometimes they can really really be these unnecessary weights on us. And I think that allow, when you regret a situation, that's awareness coming through, because now you realize that, what, maybe this, I regret maybe not doing this decision, or but I think at the time we have to remember we were working with the tools that we had available to us at that period of time. And it's not to make excuses, but it's to just to acknowledge that that's where we're at. But there is an opportunity to grow from there as well. So that's just one thing that's coming through with that, or another thing that's coming through with that. But let's talk about your second line here, which says, meeting the host in the alley, no troubles. So this could be something where maybe if you, that's interesting. I even got where if you need to revisit a topic, maybe you were looking at like something that maybe you abandoned, like maybe you used to play guitar, maybe you used to dance, maybe you used to build things, whatever that is. This would be a great time to kind of meet up with that energy and just sort of like, sort of reevaluate. Like maybe this is something where this relationship doesn't have to be where all is lost. Maybe there's been some time that's been in between this thing, but there's no troubles. Like we just pick it back up and just start from there. And this could be even something too, kind of going back to that first line. Let's say if there was some sort of like split in some sort of relationships, whether this be friends, family, work, whatever that may be, relationship. It can be where now you can meet up with this person and maybe have that conversation, and there's no troubles, because even in that first one, it talks about seeing an evil person bodes no ill. And I think maybe even too, it's like, it's can even kind of go circling back to that really quick, where, people, again, it's not, I'm not trying to make excuses for people, but sometimes like when I even think about when I'm holding, maybe because I got a lot of fixed energy, and I can sometimes hold one, have some hard feelings. But I, even when in myself personally, what I've been trying to do is like, what, maybe not putting this on the person, because all that's going to do is just perpetuate a problem, but put it on the action that they did, where it's like, what, I'm looking at that past you, and I didn't care for that, but I understand that you were wherever you were at your journey here. And that's not always easy, and I think that whether you decide, let's say if you're meeting someone and you decide to either rekindle something, start things over again or not, there's no troubles in regardless of this, because at least if you had that conversation, how you were felt, and now you can maybe leave with some closure. So that's just something that's coming up there. Now let's get into the fourth line, which talks about the abandoned waif met a great man. Both became prisoners, safe in peril. And this one was an interesting one, because this to me more feels like if there's something that you've, like, again, like a dream maybe that you've let go of, that you had to put on the back burner, maybe because of you started a family, maybe things got busy with work, or just things, just life just happened to, do its thing. This could be where your dreams are coming back to meet you, that great person is, and when it talks about both becoming prisoners, that maybe this is something where, let's say, if you're getting reintroduced back with your craft, you're really involved with one another. You're locked together, and you're safe in peril. Because now you have each other in this thing here. So that's just something that's coming through there. But yeah, that's all I got for that fourth line there. That's just something I think to think about. This is almost, this almost feels like like I said, like a rekindling is this, what this energy is kind of giving me here. And maybe even like a need to create your space, or create yourself for something of like, create a space for like isolation, possibly, maybe to be more so with your craft, or whatever that might be looking like for you. Now, the last line here talks about the abandoned waif saw a pig in the mud and a cart full of demons. But, then the next line, he says, he arched his bow at first, but finally put it down. They are not robbers, only wife grabbers. Going would be favorable if it rains. Now, this to me, this one is one sort of thing that this reminds me of, is like 12th house themes, which is very interesting. Because sometimes that's the house of bad spirit, in traditional or in ancient astrology. And sometimes when, especially when we're looking at times when we get ourselves stuck, or even when we have to deal with our demons, it can seem like when those things get riled up, maybe like some old vices, maybe some depression, maybe something, that tends to come up. We want to be on guard, and we want to treat it like the enemy. Like, no, why are you here? Go away, go away, go away. Pushing it away. And then, but see, when we don't give that thing its space, then those sort of like unconscious tendencies still run us. So it's like, you may have been on guard at first, and I think that that's fair. Let's say if this is like, I have the sun in the 12th house, so this would be an example. Like if there are any sort of like, tendencies that may be, kind of coming up. I've gotten to this place where it's like, oh, okay, bad spirits getting riled up, something's off. It's not like oh no, I'm doing this thing again, or like, that's not like a beating yourself up energy. It's just like, even if I notice like the thoughts coming through, it's like, okay, let me get eyes on that, because bad spirits trying to communicate. Because when it talks about like not being robbers, only wife grabbers, there was this thing in Chinese history where, I'm pretty sure that's how this worked, where it was like, if a couple couldn't afford to get married, what they would do is one of the families would stage a robbery. Like the daughter would happen to get in a cart one day, she'd go run off, and then these people would come disguised as robbers, but really what they're doing was kidnapping them so that they could go off and get married. Because then you could be like, oh, well, I don't know what happened. Like she's, 1 minute, and we just hope she's safe, and of course she's safe. But I think that when it talks about going would be favorable if it rains, and when it says that, like, if you are getting a message, and it's only would be favorable to go forward if you understand what these messages are trying to bring up for you, what this being stuck in the mud, or what these cart full of demons are going to maybe bringing up for you. And I think that's the beauty, again, of Gemini, that it has this ability, and all the air signs have this, but I think Gemini in particular, they have this way of seeing that the duality of the mind, seeing things from different perspectives. So I think there's just something there to kind of explore on this, any sort of like abandoned relationships, maybe even, this could be maybe again you're revitalizing or reviving some friendships, or again maybe some familiar relationships, or maybe even just like a past passion or thing along those lines. So just some things I think to just kind of just consider as we get into this. But and again, sit with that, see how that resonates with you. Again, I'm just speaking very generally when I'm talking about these different changing lines. But let's go ahead and get into your tarot here. But last little thing, these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. Now, what I'm going to do here is pull 6 cards, and it's going to talk about, I'm switching things up just like a slight little bit. We're going to go over, it's going to cover different topics, and since you got card or changing lines for 1, 2, 4, and 6, we're going to get clarifiers for those cards as well. But let's get into your first card here, which just talks about the nature of your point of view right now, this sort of like question maybe that you're coming up to for this reading here, or the kind of guidance that you might be seeking from this reading. Yeah, let's see how you're viewing things right now. I'm with that. So you have the Prince of Disc here. This gives me that maybe there's this energy of something that you're wanting to. The Prince of Disc is very methodical, one that is very patient, one that's going to put in the work and thinking about like, okay, what steps do I need to do? The farmer archetype. How do I make this land work for me? So maybe you're thinking about some sort of endeavors that you're getting ready to start up. Maybe this is, maybe you're wanting to get a promotion possibly, or it's just something that you're thinking about that that's going to require a lot of effort and require some time, because this Prince of Disc here has got some Taurus energy in this mix here. So you want something. This feels like something that is requiring not just maybe a lot of time, where where you have patience, but just a lot of stamina as far as like your energy as well. Like, how do I pace this thing? You know what I mean? That's what this kind of Prince of Disc is. It's like almost like how do we approach things from a practical standpoint? Or just like there's something here that's requiring a lot of, maybe like discipline, or maybe even like vigilance here. Because this even feels like it's embodying a bit of that sort of like Saturn in Aries energy, where this is something maybe that you're thinking about getting started up that's going to require that's going to really require some inner strength here. But let's get a clarifier with this Prince of Disc and see what's going on with that. All right, so the Prince of Disc is clarified by the Six of Swords here. And this to me, it's like we're moving towards, we're really, it's almost like we're trying to like refine something here. It's like, but in order to do that, there's something that you have to move away from. Maybe there's a certain mindset that is needing to be adjusted here. That's needing to be, it's like these people are just leaving with the clothes on their back in this chest that they're sailing in. So it's like as you're going about whatever this thing that you're doing, there may be some things that might need to be, maybe again some old ways of thinking, because the swords are dealing with the mind here. And this is one of Mercury's cards. While we're talking about this mercurial energy, this is Mercury in Aquarius. And so we're thinking about the future. We're thinking about where things are, maybe where things are going, and how you want to manifest that. And again, it just seems like there are going to be some things that maybe kind of contradict one another. Like again, if you want to, kind of to go back to the sobriety kick real quick, it's like if you're wanting to work on that, then you're going to have to change maybe the groups that you might be hanging around, so that there's maybe not that urge there for that. Or if you're wanting to, even if you wanted to start up maybe like maybe you want to go for like a doctor, for example, hanging around, or even like, if you can hang around some doctors, yeah, absolutely. But more so like even like introducing more information along those lines that help it's like something that's like freshening the mind in a way. So but I really do kind of feel that whatever this thing is that maybe we're starting here is, again, this is a long, maybe even a longer journey than maybe you're thinking. And again, it's going to require, there may be a little bit of concern about how we're going to get this thing completed, you know, where, because there's all sorts of other responsibilities that are coming in. You know, we got bills, we got all the things. Maybe you got kids, maybe you got school. But I think that where there's a will, there's a way, but it's one that's going to need to get a kind of practical mindset here. But let's go ahead and get into your next card, which talks about the obstacles that might impede this energy. Interesting. So you got the girlfriend here. You got the Princess of Discs. And you know, maybe the problem, I see an obstacle, I think, is really getting this thing to manifest. You know, the Princess of Disc is the earthy part of Earth. You know, she's just pure manifestation. And with the Prince of Disc, the princes are air energy. So this is like, again, we're taking this idea, we're trying to ground it. But again, maybe it's just like you got that news, but it's like it seems like it's going to be a lot harder than maybe you anticipated. Because even when you look at the Princess of Disc, she's pregnant in this card. Pregnancy is not easy. Babies just don't, you know, you just don't get pregnant and then baby just whoop, just out just a talking or walking. It takes a long time, and not just the growing process, but then the growing after that process. You know, like you get how to teach it how to walk, how to talk, feed itself, clothe itself, all of the things here. And so it's like maybe there's the obstacles, just like the weight too of this material. It's one thing to have all these ideas, that Gemini energy, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't see it, you know. Or I shouldn't say that, but I think that it'll have more of an impact when not just you, but we can all kind of see it here. But let's get a clarifier on the princess. Let's see what's going on with that. So you got the Justice card here. And that's what this kind of feels like. You know, it seems like that there's going to be a need to, because external things are going to continue to happen, whatever it is that you're going to be starting. And so, because this is Libra energy. And so this is a card about staying balanced, even when there are these kind of outside things going to play, remembering the goal at the end of the day. You know, what the princess is ultimately trying to do here. Because she's taken this life force that she has, and this forest is barren behind her, but she's going to turn this. That ground is lit. I love talking about this card. That ground is lit with her energy, and these trees are going to get ready to come into bloom here. It'll be this oasis, you know, that she's building. But I'm even getting to that there's, you know, with the justice, there may even be some legal things that might come into play with this. Maybe we're thinking about like how to get trademarks, you know, making sure that we're not, you know, maybe you got a title, but maybe there's something where, you know, you want to make sure that you're not crossing any wires or getting into any sort of like, you know, just any sort of like legalities or things along those lines. That would be something that I would look into as well. And I would even say too, you know, maybe like you again, like I had mentioned that earlier, where it's like talking with someone maybe that you trust, but maybe this idea, kind of keep it close to your chest right now. This might be something where, you know, just like, yeah, that's just another energy that's coming through with the Justice card. All right. But let's go ahead and get into your third card here, which talks about where you may be thinking, maybe some solutions that you're, or some actions that you're maybe thinking about some taking, you know, maybe some conscious solutions. A lot of earth. Yeah, a lot of earth and air that's coming through here. Because you got the devil here, Capricorn. And the devil is not just about, you know, like the like kind of toxicity. The devil's the lord of the gates of matter. This could be where you just have a lot of work coming up for you right now. You know, a lot of things that is going to require, yeah, it's just going to require a lot more from you because the devil is really creative energy, when you think about it. And I find where things maybe get toxic is where that when that creative energy is feeling stifled in some type of way. So there might be something where, your solution, maybe you're thinking about, okay, maybe I do need to cut out certain substances, or maybe I need to distance myself from certain relationships, maybe certain environments, so that you can, that Six of Swords, Justice card clarifying this. Maybe there's something that, just again, me to just evaluate the things that are going on around you that may be constraining the will in some sort of way here that I'm getting with this, I'm getting with the devil here. But again, I just keep getting about the weight of Earth, and that the responsibility behind this. So in Capricorn, the devil, that Capricorn's one of the along with Libra, is one of the is one of the initiators. And so, the solution that you're planning on implementing, I think that it is to just like keep that in mind. Like, it's not something like the devil, the work of the devil isn't something that you just like once you solve it, it's done. It's something that keeps on keeping on. But it helps you to develop different tools. It helps you, it just makes you stronger. And I think that it is too. This thing, the devil is like, the solution is like doing the thing, making this happen. The regrets disappear. Don't worry about maybe like, again, like it's like that lost horse. You're thinking about like, well, if I do this thing, maybe I'm going to miss out on this thing and this thing and this thing. But if you don't do this thing, there are other things that you may be missing. And I think that's where Libra sometimes can get, where it's just like that again, that FOMO energy, where it's just like, oh, I don't want to miss out on anything, so maybe I won't do anything. So that's even, I would even kind of pay attention to any sort of like energies like that. But let's get into your fourth card here. Now, this talks about more so kind of like influences from like your holy guardian angel, that sort of like that higher sense of who you are, what are some, that energy that's trying to lead you. Advice from spirit, in a sense. There we go. That's how I describe that. But you got the Five of Cups here. Now, with this one, this to me feels like this thing that you're trying to start up, that maybe you're even trying to move here. Because the Five of Cups, this is a very martial card. This is Mars and Scorpio. It's a lot of dry energy here. The water's all dry, kind of dirty here. And this to me is just like there's that the angel's trying to bring more feeling into what you're doing, into the stuff, to pour some water. Oh my gosh, we're like how we were talking about with the well, looking at things that maybe used to fill you up but are no longer doing that anymore. You're no longer finding that sense of satisfaction. You're not getting full on this thing, and now it's all, if anything, now all it's doing is just draining your energy. And so now this is giving me like this invitation to Spirit's just wanting you, if you're feeling, when you're feeling that sense of like maybe unfulfillment or disappointment, frustration, I find that's when the angel's like trying to, issue out some tough love, where it's just like, hey, right, this doesn't feel great. Like, so it's like, what can we do to fix that? You're noticing these feelings for a reason, and they keep coming up for you, these external things. How do you harmonize back into this? What are some things maybe that some paths maybe that you need to change, or where you need to go with this? But let's get a clarifier with the Five of Cups. Let's see what's going on with that. All right. So you got the Three of Swords here. And that's interesting. Both the kind of like the malefics here. This is Saturn and Libra, and this is Mars and Scorpio. Again, these kind of real strong. The malefics are in a strong position in these cards right now. But this, to me, this Three of Swords, again, it's like some sort of contract is ending. Something where and you know what? And this is not to say that this realization, this thing is going to be something that's like easy, where you're just like, can again, just maybe just kind of let this thing go and it's just like, I'm just kind of done and over with. There may be some, look at this, it's a bit dramatic in this card here, but she's cutting her wings some, and it's almost like she's sacrificing herself. I'm trying to remember the story for this one. It's like she's sacrificing herself, cutting her wings to appear normal for this shadow figure back here, whatever this king I think is just trying to keep her caged here. But yeah, something that I think that is it may feel like whatever this thing you're letting go maybe in the moment may feel harsh, but it's going to feel so much better as you start to move on in this. I'm even getting pulled back to like the abandoned waif met a great man, both become prisoners safe in peril. That even with this, I feel like even with this challenge, maybe that you may be carrying, that you're going to be safe in this. Like this is something that this those shadow aspects of us, they're no they're just it's just another side of us. We're kind of all in this. I don't want to call the body a prison, but I think it feels like a prison when we're at odds with ourselves. But this can become more of a temple when I think we kind of make peace with these changes that need to happen here. So that's a very interesting message that's coming through. Now let's talk about your next card, which is going to deal with any sort of like shadow influences. Maybe let's see what are some unconscious things that may be kind of running beneath the surface here. Yeah, you're really keeping the earth coming. You got the Hierophant here. And this to me feels like that there's not that, the shadow influences, that there's that maybe that connection with that higher self that's needed, that with that kind of holy guardian angel in a sense. There's a need to maybe kind of get back to your roots possibly. And you know what too? This might be the Hierophant can be like the one that delivers the messages and things. And maybe there are some maybe there's some external people who are giving out some messages that, this may not even be malicious, but maybe they're messages that are keeping you stuck. Well, maybe it's like where you say you have this idea, but people might say like, oh well, it's too risky right now. Maybe it may not be this time. And where I do understand, we want to take calculated risk, but the conditions will never be perfect. They can get pretty close, but it's just like, how long do we want to wait for that thing? I think that there are other steps that can get started right now. Something where maybe you don't have to, and that might be something too where maybe you've always looked to people maybe to let you know when it's time to do something, but it's like, when you feel ready and you feel called to do this thing, because that's how earth energy is receptive. They receive this thing, they get those ideas and then they build it. They receive the seeds in a sense. So and that might be something too, even looking at like old beliefs, that maybe that you've held dear, and there's a need to kind of reflect on those possibly. That might be another thing, again, going back to that Five of Cups, where it used to maybe, it served a purpose during that spot where you were at in your journey, but now it's time to change things. We have eyes on this thing, and now it's like something's evolving here. Yeah, your practice is evolving. All right. Let's get to your last card here, which talks about just like the potential outcome of the situation. Nice. All right, so you have the Prince of Wands here. In this, to me, going forward with eyes open, going forward with, and the thing is with the Prince of Wands, there are going to be challenges, but the Prince of Wands meet challenges head on. The Prince knows that it can't stay in a comfort zone forever. It's going to get antsy. After a while, it's going to eventually gets, ultimately kind of bored. And then that fire is going to want to get whipped up again. Something's there. I think with that, and you got quite a few people here, Prince and Princess of Disc, and now the Prince of Wands. So, I think the outcome here is to not just go for this thing, but like to do it because it's something that you see the path. How this princess wants, our eyes are open here. This is like maybe other people don't understand the path that you're doing, but it'll make sense as it starts to materialize here. And so this could be, again, not a time to worry about what other people are thinking, what other people may be guiding you here, but let me get a clarifier with this, with the Prince of Wands. Oh, this Queen of Swords, she's a savage. You got the Queen of Swords here. And you know what? The Queen of Swords is clarity. And Queen of Swords sees patterns. So she's got, like I said, she's got these heads back here. And this could be the voices of those who told you that you couldn't, again, those kind of past programmings here. We were seeing the patterns where it's like, oh, every time I said this to such and such, they would do this. Or every time I put myself in this situation, this happens. And now it's like, I'm seeing the road for how it truly is. I'm seeing the path clearly here. And when you get those real kind of insights of clarity, and it's not to say that you're not going to run into obstacles along the way, but when the path is clear like that, go for it. Let's get things moving while things are while the energies are fluid like this. Oh, I definitely meant to switch back over. But yeah, I think that's all I got for that Queen of Swords there. All right, but yeah, I think that's all I got for you there on this reading. This is a very interesting reading, but again, I think that this is the energy. This is the time to really, again, I think this lunar cycle is one to really get some big things started. And even right before we got into this one, the previous lunation, when the moon was in Taurus just a few days ago, there was that energy of starting something new, energy of starting something big, but it was going to require that determination here. And yeah, I think that this is looking at maybe any sort of like abandoned dreams, any sort of in whatever that's looking like, and going for that thing and being gung-ho about it. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And to subscribe there, who are we going to be? You Hierophant. Hit that bell button, you get notified of all these videos each day. And then I'm going to get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to work with me, kind of follow these transits, see what are maybe some auspicious dates that are getting ready to come up, maybe see how these transits are going to be affecting you, or if you just want to know how to work with your own natal chart more personally, down in the description box is a link for or list of the services that I provide. And if you have any questions about how, as far as like booking or any other things that it might cover, there is my emails down there, so definitely feel free to reach out to me there. And then on my other channel, Alchemist 8, I do these weekly videos talking about where the celestial bodies and the sun are moving and how to work with those energies practically, kind of bring that stuff from the heavens down to earth. And I also have these video series that I'm talking about different signs and different houses different celestial bodies and different signs and different houses. So definitely check that out. That's something that interests you. But let's go ahead and get into your surprise card here, which I'm with that. That's a great start. So you got the White Raven Spirit here, which is a card of trust in the magic. And there's a lot of magic that's happening right now. There's even like an oracular energy that Gemini has that almost like I think of them sometimes as like the divine mouthpieces in a sense. You get that, especially when you have that connection with that higher energy, that this is the time to believe in your creative potentials and whatever that means. If you want to move, or if you want to get a promotion, you want to pursue a relationship, you want to build connections, you want to make friends, you want to improve yourself, whatever this is, trust in that magic that you can make these things happen. That this is not just for for just the Hierophant to dish out there and to tell you how to do to do your task or to do your calling. This is no one knows your magic better than you do. So yeah, a little something to think about. All right, until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you on the next one. Mercury Day.